No longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White
that is
not going to be saved by
you
the
wrote
prince.
it?
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
Disney's most treasured fairy tale has transformed into its worst nightmare, as Rachel Zegler's controversial comments and creative decisions turned Snow White from a guaranteed box office hit into a $300 million catastrophe that has executives questioning everything about their live-action remake strategy. Welcome to Celebrity Breakdown, where we dive deep into Hollywood's most explosive controversies. I'm your host, and today we're unpacking what industry insiders are calling the Snow White disaster, a perfect storm of controversial statements, box office failures, and creative decisions that might have permanently damaged one of Disney's most precious intellectual properties. The numbers don't lie. Disney's live-action Snow White is projected to lose over $115 million, making it one of the studio's biggest financial disasters in recent memory. But how did a beloved fairy tale with a massive budget and star power collapse so spectacularly? And more importantly, did its lead actress unknowingly sabotage her own career in the process? Let's start at the beginning and follow this fairy tale's dark twist into box office oblivion. Rachel Zegler's take on Disney's Snow White was supposed to usher in a bold new era for the classic fairy tale. Instead, her controversial comments about the original 1937 film may have set the stage for one of Disney's biggest disasters. So what exactly did she say that caused such an uproar? During early interviews promoting the film, Zegler didn't hold back her opinions about the original Snow White. She called it outdated and described Prince Florian as a guy who literally stalks her. Yes, you heard that right. She labeled one of Disney's most iconic characters a stalker. While some applauded her for challenging old tropes, many fans were outraged, accusing her of disrespecting a beloved classic while being cast as its lead. But Zegler didn't stop there. She doubled down, declaring that her version of Snow White would not be saved by the prince or dreaming about true love, but instead would focus on becoming a leader. This fundamental shift in the story alienated traditional Disney fans who cherished the original themes of love and magic. Critics quickly labeled it woke feminism gone wrong, and social media erupted with memes and backlash. Some insiders speculate that these comments created tension even within Disney itself. Was this bold rewrite a creative risk worth taking, or did it alienate the very audience Disney needed to succeed? And here's where things get even messier. Did Zegler's remarks about the prince influence other controversial decisions, like sidelining male characters entirely? Disney's live-action Snow White was supposed to celebrate and modernize the legacy of the 1937 animated classic, but Rachel Zegler's controversial comments about the original film may have done more harm than good. Did her bold statements alienate fans and tarnish Disney's reputation? In early promotional interviews, Zegler didn't hold back when discussing how her version of Snow White would differ from the original. She described the 1937 film as outdated and dismissed Prince Florian as a guy who literally stalks her. These remarks immediately sparked outrage among fans who felt she was disrespecting a beloved classic that paved the way for Disney's success. Social media exploded with backlash, with many accusing Zegler of being ungrateful for the opportunity to play such an iconic character. What many found particularly shocking was that Zegler seemed to show little reverence for a film that's universally acknowledged as a groundbreaking achievement in animation and storytelling. Walt Disney himself considered Snow White his greatest accomplishment, mortgaging his house to finance what would become the studio's first animated feature film. For many Disney enthusiasts, Zegler's comments weren't just criticizing a movie, they were dismissing the foundation upon which the entire Disney empire was built. The controversy raised an important question in Hollywood. When actors take on beloved roles, do they have a responsibility to honor the legacy of the original, or should they feel free to publicly criticize aspects they find problematic? Whatever the answer, Zegler's comments created a PR nightmare for Disney that would only grow more complex as the film approached its release date. Disney's live-action Snow White remake was supposed to be a guaranteed success, but instead, it's become one of the studio's most embarrassing disasters. And Rachel Zegler's controversial remarks may have been the tipping point that sent everything spiraling. Did her outspoken nature spark the backlash that doomed Disney's $300 million gamble? It all started with Zegler's early promotional interviews where she called the original 1937 Snow White outdated and described Prince Florian as a guy who literally stalks her. These comments immediately sparked outrage among Disney fans who accused her of disrespecting a beloved classic that has been cherished for generations. Social media exploded with criticism, with many calling her remarks arrogant and dismissive of Disney's legacy. But things escalated even further in August 2024 when Zegler posted "Free Palestine" on social media while promoting the film's trailer. The post triggered political backlash and reportedly led to death threats against her co-star Gal Gadot, who is Israeli. Disney was forced to pay for increased security for Gadot and her family, a costly move that insiders say added to the already over-budget production. Producer Mark Platt even flew to New York to confront Zegler about the post, but she refused to delete it, standing firm despite mounting pressure. Months later, Zegler doubled down with anti-Trump posts following the presidential election, alienating conservative viewers and sparking boycott calls. Critics accused her of signaling to half of the film's potential audience to stay home, a disastrous move for a family-oriented blockbuster. By this point, Disney executives were reportedly in full panic mode, wondering how to salvage a project that seemed to be imploding before it even hit theaters. Disney's live-action Snow White was supposed to be a celebration of one of its most iconic classics, but Rachel Zegler's controversial remarks about the original film may have alienated fans before the movie even hit theaters. Did her comments about Prince Florian being a stalker doom this project from the start? In early interviews, Zegler didn't shy away from criticizing the 1937 animated classic. She described it as outdated and claimed that the prince was a guy who literally stalks her. Fans were immediately outraged, accusing Zegler of disrespecting Disney's legacy and dismissing a beloved fairy tale that has been cherished for generations. Social media exploded with backlash, with many labeling her comments as arrogant and out of touch. What made these comments particularly damaging was their timing. While most promotional interviews aimed to generate excitement and nostalgia, Zegler's remarks seemed to tell potential audiences that the original Snow White, a film many grew up loving, was problematic and no longer relevant. This created an immediate disconnect with Disney's most loyal customers, families and nostalgic fans who passed their love of Disney classics from generation to generation. The backlash raised serious questions about Disney's casting and media training. Had the studio properly prepared Zegler for the responsibility of representing such an iconic character? Did they anticipate how her comments might impact audience perception, or did they assume that modernizing the story would attract new viewers without considering how it might alienate existing fans? Disney's live-action Snow White was supposed to be a celebration of one of its most iconic classics, but instead it became a battleground between Rachel Zegler and Disney's core audience. Did her controversial remarks about the original film alienate fans and doom the project? It all started during early promotional interviews when Zegler described the original 1937 Snow White as outdated and labeled Prince Florian a beloved character, as a guy who literally stalks her. Fans were furious. Social media erupted with backlash, with longtime Disney enthusiasts accusing Zegler of disrespecting the legacy of a film that helped build the studio's empire. Memes mocking her comments flooded platforms like Twitter, with users calling her ungrateful for criticizing a story she was hired to bring to life. What began as criticism of Zegler's comments quickly evolved into a full-blown fan revolt. Hashtags like "Not My Snow White" and "Boycott Snow White" began trending, with thousands pledging to skip the film entirely. Fan forums and Disney community sites filled with debates about whether actors should respect the source material of roles they accept. Many argued that if Zegler found the original story so problematic, perhaps she shouldn't have accepted the role in the first place. Industry analysts noted that this fan backlash created a unique problem for Disney. The studio found itself in the awkward position of trying to promote a film while its star was actively criticizing the very property that made the remake possible. Some even suggested that Disney considered limiting Zegler's press appearances as the controversy grew, though the studio never confirmed such reports. Disney's live-action Snow White remake was meant to reimagine the classic fairy tale for modern audiences, but Rachel Zegler's bold rewrite, removing the prince and love story, has sparked outrage among fans. Did this controversial decision alienate Disney's core audience and set the stage for one of its biggest flops? In interviews leading up to the film's release, Zegler made it clear that her version of Snow White would be very different from the 1937 original. She stated, "She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be." This dramatic shift from the original narrative was praised by some as empowering, but criticized by many as unnecessary. Fans argued that Snow White's love story wasn't just a subplot, it was central to the magic and charm of the original. Disney doubled down on these changes by completely removing Prince Florian and replacing him with a new character named Jonathan, described as a Robin Hood-esque bandit. Unlike the original prince, Jonathan is not a romantic savior, but a companion in Snow White's rebellion against the evil queen. While Zegler defended this decision as realistic, critics accused Disney of sacrificing beloved elements of the story in favor of pushing an agenda. This creative decision highlighted a fundamental question that's been haunting Disney's live-action remakes. If you change the core elements that made the original beloved, is it still the same story? Many fans argued that without the prince, the magical kiss, and the romantic fantasy, this simply wasn't Snow White anymore. It was a different story wearing Snow White's costume. The studio's gamble on this modern reinterpretation would soon face its ultimate test at the box office. Rachel Zegler's Snow White remake has officially become one of Disney's most notorious box office disasters, and the backlash has been relentless. But instead of staying quiet, Zegler has fired back at critics in a series of statements that have only added fuel to the fire. Did her response make things worse? After Snow White opened to a dismal $43 million domestically and just $87 million globally in its first weekend, critics and fans alike took to social media to mock both the film and Zegler herself. Viral clips of empty theaters and scathing reviews flooded platforms like X, formerly Twitter, with many calling it the lowest performing Disney movie in decades. But Zegler didn't hold back. In a recent interview, she doubled down, calling the backlash toxic fandom drama and accusing critics of review bombing the film to make a political statement. She went even further, claiming that Snow White was still the #1 movie in the world despite its poor performance. Fans were quick to call her out, pointing to box office numbers that showed Snow White being crushed by Warner Brothers. Minecraft, which earned over $301 million globally in just weeks, many accused Zegler of being out of touch with reality. PR experts were baffled by Zegler's approach. Instead of acknowledging the criticism or adopting a diplomatic stance, her defensiveness seemed to only intensify the backlash. Some industry veterans suggested that in situations like this, stars are usually advised to either remain silent or offer a humble response that acknowledges audience disappointment. Zegler's choice to fight back against critics created what one media analyst called a textbook example of how not to handle a film flop. Disney's live-action Snow White was supposed to be a surefire hit, but instead, it's become one of the studio's most expensive flops. With an estimated $115 million loss looming, many are asking, did Rachel Zegler's controversial comments play a key role in destroying this $300 million project? It all began during early promotional interviews when Zegler called the original 1937 Snow White outdated and described Prince Florian as a guy who literally stalks her. This bold critique of one of Disney's most iconic classics immediately sparked backlash. Fans accused Zegler of disrespecting the legacy of a film that not only launched Disney's animation empire, but also shaped generations of childhoods. Social media erupted with memes and angry posts, with many calling her comments arrogant and dismissive. By the time Snow White hit theaters in March 2025, it was surrounded by negative buzz. The film opened to just $43 million domestically and suffered a catastrophic 66% drop in its second week. Critics blamed everything from awkward CGI dwarfs to Zegler's remarks for alienating audiences. The film's total global box office stalled around $168 million, a disastrous figure for a movie with a reported budget of $270 million, plus an estimated $100 million in marketing costs. Financial analysts have begun comparing Snow White to other notorious box office bombs like The Marvels and Cats, with some suggesting it could rank among the biggest financial disasters in recent Hollywood history. Disney shareholders are reportedly furious, demanding answers about how a remake of one of the studio's most beloved properties could fail so spectacularly. Some industry experts speculate that this disaster could force Disney to reevaluate its entire approach to live-action remakes, potentially putting other planned projects on hold. Rachel Zegler's role in Disney's live-action Snow White was supposed to cement her status as one of Hollywood's rising stars, but her controversial comments about the original 1937 classic have sparked outrage among fans, and now many are questioning if her career can survive the fallout. In interviews promoting the film, Zegler didn't hold back her critiques of the original Snow White. She described it as outdated and labeled Prince Florian as a guy who literally stalks her. These remarks immediately went viral, with fans accusing Zegler of disrespecting a beloved classic that has been cherished for generations. Social media erupted with memes mocking her comments, and hashtags like boycott Snow White began trending almost overnight. The backlash intensified after the film flopped at the box office, earning just $43 million domestically on opening weekend, a catastrophic figure for a $300 million project. Fans blamed Zegler's comments for alienating audiences before the movie even premiered, with many calling her remarks arrogant and dismissive. Now, insiders are speculating whether Hollywood is quietly distancing itself from Zegler. Reports suggest that several projects she was attached to are now reevaluating their casting choices. Sources close to major studios claim that executives are wary of casting an actress who has demonstrated she might alienate potential audiences with controversial statements during promotion. As one anonymous producer put it, "When you're investing hundreds of millions in a film, you need stars who bring audiences in, not drive them away." However, not everyone believes Zegler's career is doomed. Some industry analysts point out that Hollywood loves a comeback story, and at just 23, Zegler has plenty of time to rebuild her reputation. They suggest that with the right project, proper media training, and perhaps a more diplomatic approach to interviews, she could eventually overcome this controversy. As we unpack the Snow White disaster, one thing becomes crystal clear. What should have been Disney's triumphant revival of its first animated feature has instead become a cautionary tale about the collision between classic storytelling and modern perspectives. The Snow White controversy raises fascinating questions about the future of Disney's live-action remakes. Can beloved fairy tales survive modern scrutiny? Should studios cast actors who personally connect with the original material, or is it acceptable to have stars who publicly critique the source? And where is the line between updating classics for contemporary audiences and alienating fans who cherish the original? For Disney, the financial implications are significant, with Snow White projected to lose over $115 million. Shareholders are demanding answers. Reports suggest the studio has already paused development on several planned remakes, including Bambi and Hercules, while executives reassess their approach. Industry analysts speculate this could mark the end of Disney's aggressive live-action remake strategy that has dominated their slate for nearly a decade. As for Zegler, her future remains uncertain. At just 23, she has time to rebuild her career, but the Snow White controversy will likely follow her for years to come. Will studios take a chance on her for major projects, or will she need to prove herself in smaller roles before regaining Hollywood's trust? Only time will tell if this is merely a stumbling block or a career-defining setback. One thing's for certain, Disney will never approach another remake the same way again. Sources tell us the studio is implementing new social media guidelines for talent involved in family-oriented projects and revamping their approach to casting and promotion. But wait, this story isn't over yet. In our next video, we'll be revealing exclusive information about behind-the-scenes tensions between Zegler and her co-star Gal Gadot that reportedly got so bad Disney had to keep them apart during promotional events. Plus, we've uncovered which A-list directors turned down the Snow White project after reading the script, calling it unfilmable, and a betrayal of everything that made the original special. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our follow-up investigation, where we'll be exposing the shocking creative decisions that doomed Snow White from the start and what this means for the future of Disney's live-action ambitions.